I'm so pleased to welcome back my next guest, one of my all-time favorites. She's a mom, she's a patriot, she's a congressional candidate, and she is a super-duper sleuth. Christine Bish, welcome back to the show. How are you, Chris?
I am wonderful. Thank you for having me back.
You're looking very well, very Christmassy, and it's nice to see you again.
It's nice to see you too. It's been an interesting 30 days, if you will.
Yeah. And so for people who haven't seen you before, you are running for Congress. Give us the whole lowdown and let everybody know how they can support your campaign by going to bishforcongress.com.
Okay, everyone. So my name is Christine Bish. I am running for Congress in California, currently in the 6th Congressional District, and we got a whole court battle over that going on. But I am running for Congress in Northern California, and you can find out more about me and the campaign at bishforcongress.com. It's BISH for congress.com. You can find me on X and Twitter and Instagram and all over the place. And recently been all over the news, Fox News, you name it. I even went on CNN because I don't back down to anybody. So if you're out there and you want to donate to the campaign, find out more information, please go to bishforcongress.com.
That's that Aries energy right there. But what we really need to talk about, Chris, and this started on X, on Twitter. I always still call it Twitter because it's Twitter, you know.
It's Twitter.
It's Twitter. But we had Attorney General Pam Bondi, who a lot of people have been a little bit disappointed with. She put up this tweet just like, I don't know, a little over a week ago saying fake news. There is no investigation into Bill Pulte. But then you countered with, hey, Pam, let's talk. And you have this subpoena that was sent to you, obviously, to testify before a grand jury. I think a lot of people still don't know about this. So tell us exactly what happened, how you got into this with Bondi, and what led to all this.
Okay, so this goes back, believe it or not, to 2020, when I was running for a congressional seat against a local representative by the name of Doris Matsui. And after I won my primary, the first thing I said to myself is, where does Doris live? Because I know she doesn't live in Sacramento. In fact, I knew she didn't live in California. So I started looking into her and found out that she was a resident of Maryland and had been a resident of Maryland, hold on to your seats, since 1979. Her husband was in Congress, and this is when he was still alive, gave up her residence in California, and last time she had registered to vote, believe it or not, I think it was November 13th, 1979. So the whole time she had her home in Maryland, it was her primary residence. And I even pulled up her driver's license, her auto insurance information, or auto registration. She had never registered to vote in Maryland, but her son hadn't been in California schools since kindergarten, graduated high school there. It's pretty sure she's a resident of Maryland, and her mortgages up until 2020 reflected that. So, but as I was digging into Doris, I was doing the opposition research, I kept running into Adam Schiff. And his name was coming up as far as being a resident of the state of Maryland. His last time he had registered to vote in California was in 2009. That's when I had discovered a House ethics complaint. And it was against Doris Matsui, and they had mentioned Adam Schiff. There were actually McClatchy newspaper, several different news outlets had covered this, that several members of Congress were not residents, according to their mortgages, of the states that they were from, predominantly California. So as I'm digging into Doris, I'm also digging into Adam Schiff, and I'm pulling up copies of the mortgage documents, copies of their tax bills, anything that was available public record. Now, as an investigator, I do have a background in investigations and still work doing financial research, if you will. I knew in doing this, anything I presented needed to be public record. That way it could never be challenged. Where I got it, how I got it, if I was entitled to receive it. So I've kept the report on Adam Schiff and Doris Matsui, for that matter, laser focused on what was available to the general public so that the evidence could not be thrown out, disqualified, or questioned. Knew what I was doing.
Absolutely.
Okay, so fast forward. You helped me break the story last year on Adam Schiff and everything that was going on. And then we ended up talking, I think it was in July, after President Trump had put on Truth Social one of the documents from the file that I had presented. I had sent that file to the FHFA. Director Pulte had put up a request for tips on mortgage fraud, and well, I couldn't help but oblige. So I had actually done that back on April 30th, had submitted it there. Now, prior to that, I had submitted it to the House Ethics Committee in October of 2024, and I believe it was June of 2023. And Ethics had done nothing with the report, with the evidence. All I got was an email. Thank you for sending it in. It didn't say drop dead or anything, but that was definitely in between the lines what I was getting out of that. So I'm subpoenaed to go before the grand jury, and this was in November of 2025. Now, I had already done an interview with an FBI agent and a Office of Inspector General for FHFA, and had gone over the Schiff stuff. They wanted to talk to me about special counsel that's been appointed, which is Ed Martin. They wanted to talk about Director Pulte with FHFA, and if I had had any communication or shared this information with anybody else in the federal government or any other media outlets. And I had told them, what was going on, that who I'd been talking to, and I have never talked to Ed Martin, who is the special prosecutor. Director Pulte, I have one quick conversation. It's what's your phone number and your email. Well, here's my phone number, here's my email. And that was the end of that short conversation. And I've never physically met either one of them. And other than that brief, what's your phone number, where they were trying to get a hold of me. Oh, those kitten pants are horrible.
That's the CNN ad. I'm sorry about that.
That's distracting. Anyhow, guys. So I was subpoenaed before the grand jury because they wanted to know if there was any more communication. So I get there, and there's to the grand jury.
Wait. So the subpoena before the grand jury is to find out if there's any more communication between you and Pulte and Martin, nothing to do with any of the mortgage fraud allegations of Adam Schiff.
Nothing. So I figured, okay, I'm going before the grand jury. I'm going to have an opportunity to talk about my findings. And so I get there expecting to talk about Adam Schiff. But there's like this bank of reporters there, and there's protesters there. And I'm like, what is going on? Now I have my publicist with me, a gal named Madeline. And I said, hey, Madeline, we got to find out what's going on here. I've got to get into this interview with the grand jury. So she goes out and talks to all these reporters. It turns out that they're there for the Maryland dad, the Kilmar Agrigo Garcia, right? So it was just mayhem at the courthouse and all these people trying to get in. So I end up meeting with these three federal officials, and they take me into an interview room behind the grand jury room. Now I'm on the marquee there, and I'm supposed to be sworn in and testify. So we go into the back room, and then they say, well, we're going to give you two options. We can either swear you in before the grand jury now, or we have some more questions for you. We can do an interview here and bring you back at a later date. So, one, I was there on my dime.
Yeah,
And
you've got to fly from California to Maryland to just even be there, and they don't care about that.
they didn't care about that. I had no clue how long I was going to be there. And when you actually read the subpoena, it says that once I'm sworn in, I can't leave until I'm released. And this is the Thursday before Thanksgiving.
Oh my God.
So I'm thinking, I don't want to spend Thanksgiving in a hotel room by myself.
Right.
And I'm paying for the room for not
Crazy.
just me, but so I have somebody there with me just in case stuff goes sideways, because
Wow.
I don't know who I'm talking to, and quite honestly, I didn't trust them,
Yeah.
based on the questioning.
Sure.
So I, decided to take the interview, and they said they would bring me back, and I very seriously laughed and said, "Yeah, when you bring me back, you can do it on your dime and not mine." So moving forward, we're in the room, and they don't want to talk about Adam Schiff, and I was very aggressive, very assertive in wanting to make sure that we did cover the evidence in the Adam Schiff case, and that's not what they were focused on. It's who did I talk to? Now,
Yeah.
one of the things that really jumped out to me, and I've been kind of quiet about this part, is in the interview. It's just crazy. In the interview, I was getting a little agitated with them and called them the Keystone Cops. Then we got towards the end, and they were very upset with me. I said, "Why are you asking me all of these questions? Why don't you ask Director Pulte or Ed Martin what their communication is with me?
Yeah.
You guys are all on the same team, right?" So I
Right.
believe it was the OIG guy. He says, "Same team? What team? Do you mean Team MAGA?"
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
really suggestive that these guys are, I mean, I think a lot of people think about this concept of warring factions within, people think
Yeah.
like, oh, Trump controls the Justice Department, so therefore everything that happens that's bad is Trump's fault or whatever. But I mean, this is what you've just pointed out is pretty strong firsthand evidence that there are these warring factions, or maybe that this is even kind of like an unsanctioned, like secret investigation into these guys. And it's certainly not an unbiased investigation, because it didn't start out with them asking what you know about Adam Schiff and then going to the communications with Pulte and Ed Martin. And I mean, in a complete comprehensive investigation, you might eventually get to the communications with Ed Martin and Bill Pulte, but the fact that they were
But
just
there wasn't
only,
any.
yeah.
And I
Well,
kept
and they,
going back to, it's public record, guys. It's public record. Anybody can have it. Now here's something that just, there were so many red flags in this. The FBI agent that was in the room, he wasn't the one I originally interviewed with. That guy was off somewhere busy, whatever. So they put in a substitute.
entrapping other people.
Exactly. So we're going through the interview, and he goes, "Do you mean to tell me that mortgage documents are public record?"
Holy
And
cow. The FBI guy doesn't know that?
he didn't know that.
How
So,
stupid could he be?
well, I don't know what his degree's in. To be an FBI agent, you can have a degree in underwater basket weaving or American Indians in film,
Wow.
and or multicultural puppetry, whatever. Anyhow, so I said, "Yeah, it's public record," and he really wasn't grokking what I was saying. So finally, we're sitting at this rectangular table, and I've got right across from me is the assistant U.S. attorney, and then kitty corner from me is the OIG guy from FHFA, and then next to me is the FBI agent. So I turn around in my chair, and I'm looking right at him, and I said, "Do you own a home?" And he says, "Well, yes." And I said, "Well, let me walk you through your loan." And I walked him through every
Started
part of his
investigating
loan, and I
you.
said, exactly. And I said, and you were probably a little curious when you went to the title company, because you're an FBI guy, you wouldn't let the notary come to your house. That wasn't going to happen. So you're at the title company, and the escrow officer has all the paperwork upside down. And they're reading the documents to you upside down. And if you're married and it looks like you are, your wife's sitting next to you, they have you sign and pass the paper to her, then turn everything upside down. At the end, what happens with your mortgage is they have you sign the notary book a couple of different times and put your thumbprint in a couple of different times for each time they had to notarize your signature. And then they said, okay, great, thank you. We'll send this back to the lender. And as soon as we're on record, we'll let you know. And on record means it's been recorded. And now it's public record. And I'm sure I came off as condescending, but after everything I had been through, I was kind of done with stupid.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's got skills in other areas, but public documents and mortgage probably isn't his strong suit.
Hmm.
So with that, and I don't mean to insult anybody, but I believe I was there under false pretenses. So, I got a lot of media while I was there, and that's what Madeline was, very she was amazing. Working as the publicist, she, was out talking to him. And of course, once all the media, and, we had CNN and Fox News and LA Times and New York, you name it, everybody's out there, that I'm there about the Adam Schiff case. So they had asked me not to talk about it, about the interview, but they couldn't stop me from talking about it. So at that point, because why I was there was not to investigate Adam Schiff. I don't know what their intentions were, but the best way to do this was to be in the light of day. Everything is public record, which means my testimony, my communication with them needs to be public record. The only time that's going to change is when I'm sworn in before the grand jury. So I am still waiting to get my little piece of paper and for them to fly me back to DC. But
Do
fast
they
forward,
do
go
they
ahead.
pay when you're with the grand jury, or you still have to pay?
Well, I'm hoping they pay, because I've already I did the first trip and covered my flight, Madeline's flight, round trip, and both of our rooms. We had meals and
Yeah,
rental
that's not
car, and
not
it was a very
inconsequential.
expensive trip. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
very expensive
Hmm.
to get
Well,
nowhere.
people should definitely go to Bish for Congress. Now, when I hit the donate button, I'm behind a VPN to make our live stream smooth here, so it won't properly show it for me right now, but people can just tap on this donate tab. Even if you're outside of California's 7th District, you can still help Christine and donate to the campaign, help pay for all the shenanigans she's being put through with this travel and all that. So please continue.
I was going to say, it's been crazy. And then we fast forward. So I'm doing all these interviews, talking to people, and getting nothing from FHFA, FBI. The next comment that comes up is Pam Bondi, and that was on the 19th of December, that says fake news. And that's when I say, hey, Pam, we need to talk, or let's talk. And that went crazy. It hit, like, I don't know, I think it was 376,000 people.
Wow.
And at one point, Pam had muted my response, so I had to put it back up.
That's crazy. So what do you think that means?
See, it
So that's
says
why it
this
says,
quoted
yeah.
post is unavailable. So that had to come from Pam, because it wasn't from me.
Why did she do that?
I don't know.
It's
So
weird,
I
though, isn't it?
reposted it. So I
Yeah.
reposted it because, I don't know what's going on with her, because she may not know that this was the intent,
But
or
don't you
know
think,
that I'm in a room with three men who were more interested in whether I was talking about Team MAGA.
Right.
that's a red flag. This
Well, but
conversation is over.
yeah, I mean, of course, we can't know why Pam Bondi muted the Twitter. These are the various esoteric functions of X Twitter, but it certainly
Mhm.
seems like the opposite of DMing you and saying, "Hey, what are you talking about? We want to hear more about this. Can we call you and figure out what the hell is going on?" It seems like she's like,
Yes.
"Don't talk about that."
Well, and we've got a couple more bombshells that I've been saving for you.
I'm
So
all
I
ears.
get I get tips. I get a lot of tips. And so I got a tip into Eric Swalwell, and it was already public record, but some people said, "Hey Chris, is this true? Did you hear about this? Is it true?" So I did do some digging and verified, yes, everything about Eric Swalwell is true. That he purchased a house, claimed it as his primary residence, and so that's a whole nother report. We
But
don't
what
want to go
about this?
back.
They're saying that Swalwell is suing somebody over mortgage
He's not
fraud
suing
allegations.
me.
It says he's suing. This is from just 3 weeks ago. Swalwell sues Trump housing officials. So is he suing? Oh, Bill Pulte. So he's suing Pulte.
Right, because apparently Representative Swalwell doesn't understand what public records are. Anybody can get public records. It's not a secret, it's not a mystery. If you have a smartphone, you can verify someone's voter registration, you can verify their mortgage documents. There's nothing to sue over. Oh, wait a minute. There is. You can do a criminal indictment for mortgage fraud or voter fraud because Swalwell didn't update his voter registration. And this is California law, and there is corresponding federal law. So as soon as Swalwell, Doris Matsui, Ami Bera, Adam Schiff, a whole bunch of other ones, when they purchased their homes in the DC area and they wrote on that mortgage document and signed the paperwork that this is your primary residence, at that time, you've declared you are a resident of that state. That invalidates your voter registration. There is no exception. There's no exception under California law where you can claim dual residency. You have signed an affidavit, and it's under penalty of perjury that you are in fact a resident of the state. So in the case of Adam Schiff, want to make sure we go back to Schiff, that he is a resident of the state of Maryland. Now he did that multiple times, but the real important one was 2009. Is he bought a condo down in Burbank, and he updated his voter registration in 2009 and said that he was a resident of California. This was immediately after he had signed the paperwork in Maryland because he refinanced that house at the same time and made a 12-month commitment that he was a resident of the state of Maryland. But he had refinanced that house several times after that, but he never changed his voter registration. So I'm saying you're in a catch-22, Mr. Schiff, Mr. Swalwell, Matsui, Ami Bera. These are all people who ran for the House of Representatives. They all had terminated their voter registration forms when they signed those mortgage documents, which meant every time they voted in California, whether it was for themselves or for someone else, they did it fraudulently. They invalidated their voter registration forms. And when they claimed they were residents of California and they did it based on the guidelines for running for office, there may be more instances where they weren't eligible to run for office. You see, you don't have to register to vote to be a candidate for a federal office or even a local office. But they should have updated their voter registration after that 12-month commitment was over. So this is something for, in the case of Adam Schiff, it would be up to Nathan Hochman, who is the district attorney down in Southern California, and there are federal statutes about doing this. So this is something for Bill Asaley and for Harmeet Dillon to take a look at.
But how about Pam Bondi? I mean, doesn't it seem like if they were serious about doing anything about Adam Schiff, this is like something they would drill right into?
Well, they should have jumped right into it. Now, remember, I had already put it with House Ethics twice. And then on April 30th, I had put it in with the tip line. I had put it in with the FHFA tip line that Pulte put up, but I had also submitted it to the FBI right afterwards. I used the exact same cover letter and format to send it to the FBI. It was only minutes apart. I was sitting at the computer anyhow. So let's step up our game. And Pulte seems to be the only one really doing his job, because I didn't know because this was April 30th, I had submitted it. And then I believe it was July 16th. My phone is blowing up. Everybody's going crazy because Trump had put out one of the documents, and I knew it was one of my documents because I recognized the highlighting I had done with my Adobe program. And so that meant Trump had seen it. He had seen the file, but he's not a prosecutor. He's the executive for our country. So it goes to Pam Bondi. And so we didn't know this until July 16th. So the following day, I think it was Laura Ingraham. She had she had gotten a copy of the actual referral from Fannie Mae to the grand jury, to the Department of Justice. And what's crazy is I put this in on April 30th. FHFA was able to do that referral on May 27th. When have you seen the federal government act so fast?
When they were chasing January 6th people, but other than that, never.
Exactly. So Director Pulte got it over to FHA or Fannie Mae. Fannie Mae made the referral to the Department of Justice. I think it was October 22nd. I actually had a video interview with FHFA OIG and with an FBI agent, and something was wrong. It just wasn't moving forward. And so I have been absolutely relentless in making sure that this moves forward, especially after the last 30 days. What's going on? Who's in charge? This is ironclad. Now, I've put this out for the public. We know that there are federal laws. These are violations. And with Schiff and Matsui and Swalwell and Barra, they're in a catch-22. Did you lie on your mortgage documents or did you lie to the voters?
Right.
Which one? Doesn't matter. They're both felonies.
Both are crimes. Yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's been interesting. And, like I said, they did ask me, the OIG and Assistant U.S. Attorney and FBI guy asked me to be quiet. But I think for safety's sake, I can't be quiet because they're letting this be put aside. Now we're going to drop the bombshell.
Okay.
The bombshell, when we go back to the tips. I get a lot of tips from a lot of people. So I did get a tip, and the tip was about the Assistant Attorney General for the United States, Todd Blanche. And the tip was that he had committed mortgage fraud and that a news outlet was going to run with this story. And this is right before Charlie Kirk was shot or assassinated. And I followed the tip and had verified that, in fact, Todd Blanche did. Technically, it's mortgage fraud. I wouldn't call it that. It was a mistake. It was an honest mistake. So what happened was he has an adult son, and this is back in 2020. So the son was buying a house, and he went to dad and said, hey, I want to buy this house. I need a cosigner. So dad gave him a power of attorney. And this was a $200,000 house in Maryland. Okay, so we know it wasn't the greatest house on the planet. It was probably pretty rough. And the son put a lot of money down. So the son signed using the power of attorney for his father as the guarantor, as the co-signer, as most people would understand. And when the son signed, there you go. When the son signed the documents, he forgot to check the box that says the co-borrower would not occupy the property. And there you go. It did get out so that the co-borrower wouldn't be occupying the property. Now, that's not guilt of anything because in order for there to be a crime, there had to be intent. You know, this guy's multimillionaire, owns a mansion in Palm Beach. He was helping his kid out, and to not check that box, especially when he wasn't the one that signed it. Now, under the law, he's still responsible because he gave his son the power of attorney. But it's clear there was no intent. And I wouldn't go anywhere with it other than to say that Blanche should recuse himself from any cases involving mortgage fraud or questions about residency. Not that he did anything wrong, but his son made a mistake and it does put him in an awkward position. I'm not asking for him to resign. I'm asking for him to recuse himself in all of these cases, the Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell, Doris Matsui, Ami Berra, and the other ones that I have submitted. And I continue to work on those cases. But in this one, I don't know. I've heard rumors about personal relationship between Blanche and what do you call it? Adam Schiff, but I can't confirm that.
Wow. But wait a minute, isn't Todd Blanche the guy who went and visited Ghislaine Maxwell in jail?
Maybe. I don't know. I wasn't there.
Yeah, I mean, so Todd Blanche, if I'm not mistaken, represented Trump in the Stormy Daniels case, and he was Trump's defense attorney, and people were all upset that Trump was making him the deputy AG because they were like, Trump loyalists, And see, what I'm about to say is pure opinion. I feel like Trump was the victim of lawfare there, just in that I think one of the key moves in lawfare is that they want to control your attorney. And maybe, again, this is an opinion statement. I don't have evidence of this. It's just looking at public domain facts and coming to a personal conclusion. Maybe Todd Blanche was sent to Trump to gain his trust so that he could do exactly this, get into the Department of Justice and then make sure that big problems go away. This is Reuters telling us that Donald Trump's attorney, Todd Blanche, took a risk giving up a plush career at a New York law firm to become the first attorney in history to defend a former U.S. president at a criminal trial, and felt the heat almost immediately when a judge questioned his credibility. So, yeah, this is what he did. He left some big law firm. Because remember, another key component of lawfare, if you're me, is that they just, sue you and then you don't have that much money, you can't get an attorney. But if you're a billionaire like Donald Trump, they need to make it very unattractive for any attorney to want to represent you. So they bring criminal charges against people who have been Donald Trump's attorney. The law firms that they work for say don't take that case. They have to leave the law firm, risk their careers just to work for Donald Trump. So if you're Trump and this guy has done that, and then you get a favorable outcome in that the case ends with, the way it did, where Trump essentially won, he's going to really like Todd Blanche after that.
Well, and Trump has a history of being loyal to people who are loyal to him. And that's one of the things we all love about our president is that loyalty factor that, he doesn't hang people out to dry. He stands behind them. And clearly Blanche did his job in that case. And, we all celebrate that because we know, what was happening with the president. In this case, I don't know. because I've heard rumors, but I try to avoid rumors and deal with facts, provable facts, where the
But
facts stand on their own. They don't
yeah,
need me to prove this case.
and I don't want to sway you one way or another, but I do want to point out that that case involved another attorney who represented Donald Trump, who in that case we learned Michael Cohen betrayed Trump. So there's a bit of a
Yep.
history of lawyers who go and represent Trump, become embedded over there, and then later turn on him. That case, the Stormy Daniels case, do you know who Norm Eisen is?
I've heard the name. I do not know him.
He is like the kingpin of lawfare, and he was very involved in putting that case together. He's done podcasts with Michael Cohen since then, has helped Michael Cohen. I mean, I know it sounds stupid to say he's done podcasts with him, but when you used to be a lawyer and now you're nothing, if they help you build up a social media presence and that can become monetized, whether it's on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, having 500,000 people following you on social media is not nothing. It is a way to get money. They publish books. They do all kinds of things for these people after they do these crazy trials. So again, I'm talking about Michael Cohen, not Todd Blanche. But it's interesting, Chris, because, you are deeply embedded into this thing. And see, what
Probably
I
more so
detect,
than I know.
well, right. But even just what you do know as far as going there,
Yeah.
experiencing firsthand, I mean, this isn't some article in a newspaper. You were in the room when they were asking you these questions. You're able to analyze every movement, every statement, the fact that they jumped on your, what team? You mean Team MAGA? That's insight
Exactly.
that we normally wouldn't get. And it's really highly suggestive that there are people within the Department of Justice who are motivated to latch on to this case and make it go away.
hmm And that was the vibe I was getting in the room. Uh, Ask me a question. I am the first person to tell you that this is what I experienced. This was my opinion. These are the facts that are public record. Um, I'm also be the first person to tell you if I don't know, I don't know.
Yeah.
And what we've got right now, what I don't know is who the bad players are, but I do find that tip highly suspicious. And I don't know, maybe it was a test. Maybe it was a test to find out how quickly I could verify that mortgage document to see
The Todd Blanche
if
one.
the Blanche one is, this lady claims that she pulled all these documents up on Adam Schiff, all the mortgage documents, tax records, voter registration forms. Did she really do it? And then I got the tip about Blanche, and it took me a couple hours
I think it's
because I
also, it could be
I
a
didn't know
test,
who he was.
right? Well, it could be a test to see, hey, is Chris Bish only going to go after Democrats? Let's put this out there and see what she does.
Well, no, it has nothing to do with Republican or Democrat. Because if you look back in the report, and I've published this, it's I think you can get it on Scrib now, all of the evidence. I very much make a point of listing as far as a precedence. Stephen Watkins out of Shawnee County, Kansas. He was a Republican freshman in Congress, and for him, I don't think it was malicious, but he still broke the law. I guess he moved in with his dad. Then he went and got a mailbox at a UPS store, and registered at the UPS store address. And when he registered there, then he turned around and he voted in a local election. And at that point, they were holding him responsible. He had 4 felony counts. Even got his driver's license at an address that he didn't live at. Now that case was concluded, and he wasn't
Yeah.
reelected to Congress. But the point is that he used a false address.
That seems deliberate to me. This is the report you're talking about, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So on that one, that one, I don't think it was malicious. I really think it was sloppy.
Hmm.
And I would say with Adam Schiff, it was sloppy in the beginning, but when he continued to refinance that Maryland house, um, when he did that, that showed intent.
Yeah. I think this is one area where you and I might disagree slightly because you're being more diplomatic than I am. I don't
I'm
think it's
running for
sloppy.
Congress.
I know. I think it's deliberate in all of these cases. And I think, like we're seeing in the Department of Justice, there are just people who are. Look, everybody in the comments now is saying if any regular person did this, you'd be indicted and in court and in jail in a hot minute. But I think that these sort of, seemingly petty crimes like signing a document the wrong way or whatever is kind of the initiation into this club where, so in the case of Todd Blanche, maybe whoever, if I'm correct, and this is all speculation, Todd Blanche, if you're watching this, please bring legal action against me. Chris has nothing to do with my comments. But if this is a rite of initiation.
Thanks for having my six.
So they'll say, Todd Blanche, you can, do all this stuff against Trump and our lawfare thing, but you got to sign this power of attorney to your son on this stupid little property that you're not going to live in just so that we have a document that we could indict you for. Because a lot of people, I think, are also questioning what the hell happened to Letitia James. It seems like they had her 16 ways till Sunday and she wiggled out of there like a very fat fish.
Well, Sam Antar was the investigator on that. We met, I think it was last August. He was doing that independently in New York with Letitia, while I'm doing this independently against Adam Schiff in California. It was fascinating that we both have incredibly different approaches, but came up with that same scenario. And where Sam really, really pushed the financial end, I'm an election integrity hawk. So I jumped right on the voter registration and where it puts them in a catch-22. And so I would argue the same thing with Letitia James. If you signed a mortgage document that you're a resident of another state, taking it as your primary residence, what are you doing as the Attorney General in New York? You declared your residency somewhere else, lady. And that is the catch-22.
Wow. One quick thing about Sam Antar, and in a future broadcast, we'll have to talk a bit more about him. And this, again, is my opinion. I deeply distrust Sam Antar because I liked him at first. And we can get into the plea agreement that he signed with the DOJ. But coincident with his investigation, I began my own investigation into Tish James. And I have concluded that the evidence that I've seen causes me to believe she faked her father's death in 1999 to hide details about this mortgage scam and to prevent him from getting prosecuted. And I come to this conclusion because in 1999, she filed a petition to become the administrator of his estate, and it was 13 years after he allegedly died. Now, Sam Antar and his confederate there, Joel Gilbert, were quick to point out, oh, that's not illegal in New York. And I said, yeah, I know that's specifically not illegal, but it's certainly highly suspicious. I see a lot of documents that she filed in the surrogate court in Queens that are equally suspicious, including it's a pro se petition that she files, which is a huge ethics violation. She's an attorney. She's not a lay person. She's the sole beneficiary of this estate. And there's like 6 or 7 waiver documents in there where she's waiving out all of the so-called siblings, many of which I have traced down, and I don't think they are her actual siblings. So again, you would think that a curious mind engaged in an investigation into this woman would at least say, hey, Jason, that's pretty interesting. Why did she wait 13 years to file this very defective probate filing when her mother died, she filed everything perfectly. She's got the receipt from the funeral. She's got all the notifications to the third parties right on time, less than a year. This other one is coincident with this thing called Cadillac funding, which is what gave them the loan that they were all in trouble for, where she said she was married to her father. It just so happens in 1999, the New York Times did a whole expose about how Cadillac funding was being, their CEO was being federally indicted. And it's my opinion that Tish James faked her father's death so he could avoid prosecution in this case. And again, I'm not saying that this is definitely 100% true, but it was super suspicious to me that not only were Joel Gilbert and Sam Antar not interested in this, they said I was a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, blocked me on Twitter, and started smearing me all over the place. So please, please be very cautious and careful with individuals who, in the one case, have signed a plea agreement with the DOJ, and in the other case have a very suspicious sealed misdemeanor that, I don't know, could be a reduced felony from something. I don't know what's going on there, but it was super suspicious.
I am very careful. And again, this is why I don't speculate, right? And if I do, it's my speculation is from me. I can only report on the facts. I got the tip to, hey, Chris, did this really happen? Well, let me check. And all of this has to stay in the light of day, because as soon as I go down a rabbit hole that cannot be proved by a notarized document or an official statement, then I get myself in trouble.
Absolutely.
If I wasn't there to witness it. Now, my interview at the U.S. Attorney's Office or at the grand jury, I can speak to that. I was there. I know exactly what happened, what was said, what were the responses, and those are the facts.
Yeah, I'm not trying to pigeonhole you into endorsing my statements, but I will say everything that I looked at were documents that I got from the surrogate court and went in there, showed them. For instance, Joel Gilbert had the death certificate from Letitia James' alleged father, and the surrogate court freaked out. They were like, "Where did you get that?" And I said, somebody published it on the internet. Where did they get that? The only person who's legally supposed to have that death certificate is the administrator of the estate, which is Tish James. And again, Joel refused to answer how he got that. There
should have been an informational copy. Typically, you can order informational copies of
death
certificates.
Not in New York. They guard those death certificates like it's Fort Knox. I went to the place. I showed it to people. They freaked out. Additionally, curiously, the format of the death certificate doesn't match 1986 death certificates from New York. And the guy working in the surrogate court even said to me, he agreed with my conclusion that it had been forged. But we're diverting from the main focus. Let me not do that.
Stick on what I do know.
Yes, and let's just come on back to that. If there's anything else that we want to discuss about Adam Schiff, anything that we haven't covered yet?
Well, they've gone pretty quiet on the Schiff stuff. So I know they're going after him for everything else that he has done. And this guy has done a lot of stuff.
He is a watermelon head.
But, they got Al Capone because of the bookkeeper.
Right.
So with that, I guess I'm kind of the bookkeeper.
Right. And so but
I don't understand why they haven't moved forward. This is an easy one. Now, if you look in San Luis Obispo, California, the district attorney in San Luis Obispo, he is right now, has not, I think it's 9 felony charges against a gal for using a false address. Used a false address on a voter registration form and running for office there. I believe it was for city council or mayor. So you put in the false address, that sort of thing, the other cases. And they got a prosecution, I think it was a little over a year ago against, and these are both Republicans who used an address other than their residence to register to vote. And the last lady, she wore a ankle bracelet for a year. She took a deal, but she still had a felony for running for office and voting using a false. Gia Powell, that's her name. Gia Powell.
So her crime was being a Republican, it sounds like.
No, when I read through the file and I've seen, what her argument is, and I understand. But the truth is, if you use a false address to run for office that is different from the one that you actually reside in, these are two ladies in California. One has already been prosecuted, and one of them is right now looking at 9 felony counts and for using a false address. So where are the district attorneys in the Bay Area?
Yeah.
Where is Nathan Hochman down in LA County with Adam Schiff?
It's quite a contrast,
it's not like
isn't it?
It's a secret.
Yeah.
There it is.
Quite a contrast to see how they come down on some people and work. So, see, I mean, look, that's not by accident. I mean, look, I don't mean to be negative, but it seems like the die is cast and the decision has been made that they're not going to touch Adam Schiff. It's important that this shifts, that somehow this Schiff situation needs to shift into a prosecutorial posture, because it just seems like everything is shaping up that nothing's going to happen to him.
Well, not if I have anything to say about it. So with that, I will continue to ask questions. I can't badger anybody. I wouldn't do that, but I will ask questions. And I have been pretty straightforward about asking Pam Bondi, hey, what about Adam Schiff? I've also been very direct with Ed Martin. Hey, what about Adam Schiff? I guess it's a little bit of gaslighting on my part, responding to their social media posts, but I'm here. I haven't gone anywhere. And, I was told I would be subpoenaed again. I imagine that would be after the first of the year.
Yeah, at this point.
At this point, right? So I also have questions for John Thune in the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
Schiff is still under that federal investigation for mortgage fraud. And, with that also comes the voter fraud and election fraud. So why is he sitting on the Judiciary Committee?
Right.
Don't have
maybe that's the reason he's
federal
not
investigation on that committee.
Maybe that's the reason why the prosecution isn't going anywhere, because he's on that committee. It's really amazing information that you've been bringing everybody, Chris. Before we close out today, just give us a little bit of an update on how the campaign is going and what's the best way for people to support you and what you're feeling about the current state of the campaign.
Okay, so quick update is I'm in California, so we're dealing with Prop 50. And Prop 50 is where the governor of California cooked up this thing to redistrict California, and it was in direct retaliation against, they say it was against Texas, but the truth is they need Trump stopped at the midterms. They need to take back the House of Representatives so they can start trying him and doing all the stuff that we already lived through during the Biden administration. They are desperate and they're trying to take away those seats. So we've got a federal case here that the state party, and of course it's been enjoined by the Attorney General's office, through the U.S. Attorney's Office. Harmeet Dillon has been leading on that, which has been a fascinating case. Absolutely agree with the Republican Party that they did this unconstitutionally, tried to gerrymander the seats. So we're kind of in a weird place here in California. Today it opened up where we can, we're under the Prop 50 what do you call it, boundaries for the congressional districts. And they just finished the court hearings yesterday. It was 3 days in court. And so we're waiting to hear back about the gerrymandered districts. And it's great that you're showing that map because or that article, because I had also found one where the Secretary of State was communicating, and this was a press release, if you will, was communicating with California DMV, and they were worried about the Prop 60, I think it is, Prop 60. You have to double check that. It's 60 or 40. And that's where they started giving driver's licenses to illegal aliens in California. And we've seen all that. But why was the Secretary of State worried about protecting illegal aliens who got driver's license? Well, that's because of motor voter. So those are the two different maps. I am in District 6 and right now plan to remain in District 6 regardless of what happens. Now, my opponent was a man named Ami Berra. He was a medical doctor, let his license go, said he didn't think it was worth renewing, according to news reports. But he was a medical doctor and frequently attested to the mental acuity of Joe Biden. He was a surrogate for the Biden campaign and maintained up until a week before they gave Joe the boot that he had nothing but confidence and had no question about how Joe Biden had governed or continued to govern. And then he flipped the script and got behind Kamala, then let his medical license go. So we don't know what's up with Ami Berra, but we do know that he purchased a property in Maryland as his primary residence in 2013. And he and his wife did not update their voter registration after claiming to be residents of the state of Maryland. Now, Ami Berra has already filed his paperwork. He is the incumbent for the old District 6. But with the Prop 50 lines, he has declared that he is running against Kevin Kiley in District 3. So it's a little messy out here in California, but we're officially launching my campaign in January. I'm pulling my paperwork for signatures in lieu in California. I've been really busy trying to clean up the mess that Congress has let go on. They should have looked at my House ethics reports or complaints. So, hopefully I'll get on the ethics committee and put an end to a whole lot of this drama and nonsense. And for the people out there, I am a Republican, but I don't discriminate when people do bad things or do sloppy things. If you lied, own it. If you made a mistake, own it. I'm forgiving. The American people are forgiving. If you fall on your own sword and say, I screwed up, it's a lot easier to forgive you and have your back. Or if it's obvious that, for Todd Blanche, I don't think that was intended. There was nothing illicit gone. But again, with Blanche, because that's out there, because it happened, because he willingly gave the power of attorney, his son signed it improperly. Dude, you got to recuse yourself.
Yeah.
You can't prosecute on these.
I think the one barrier to you getting onto the House Ethics Committee is that you are actually ethical, and they don't like that. It's the House Unethics Committee. But, Chris, I'm no political expert. I'm not a pollster or anything, but it just looks to me like they said, let's just get rid of all these Republican districts and make it more blue.
5 to make the state blue. And honestly, we are already gerrymandered in California. And there is a group called Election Integrity Project California. And I've been involved with them in the past, co-plaintiff on cases. But Election Integrity Project has gone through the voter rolls, and they have some of the most amazing findings. And this is all volunteer. There's nobody getting paid. We also have a young man named Shiloh Marks, and Shiloh's been all over X. He's digging into the voter forms all over California, cleaning up the mess that we have. Now, you can't deny what is obvious. We know that for voter registration in California, you're on an honor system. And the evidence that I have presented in Doris Matsui, in Adam Schiff, I've already submitted the complaints on Ami Berra. Somebody beat me to the complaint on Eric Swalwell. But those are out there. Those are the facts. And these people were on the honor system, and maybe they don't understand voter registration and how it actually works and the state and federal guidelines for that. But the truth is, these people declared their residence in other states. Then they continued to vote and claim on their documents to run for office that they were residents of California. And that's not what their mortgage documents prove. Now, here's the other case to this. Every one of those lenders, the mortgage companies or the banks who did these loans, they are equally as responsible. Part of underwriting is they're supposed to catch it when people don't put the truth on their paperwork. So rightfully so, there's a whole lot of loan officers, underwriters, and title companies where people should be getting prosecuted for all of this chaos. And okay, so one more shoe to drop before I let you go.
Let's hear it.
I have put together a memorandum, and a memorandum is my opinion, and it is nothing more than my opinion. But I've looked at the Adam Schiff mortgage documents and the fact that at least 2 of those loans were done with the same lender, and put it through the test, did a lot of research. It looks like they could get Schiff on RICO violations on those 2 mortgages because of the mutual benefit. It happened more than once. It happened with the same company, and they covered up that he falsely claimed where he lived. That meant the underwriter had to do it, that everybody at the time, it was Quicken Mortgage. Now it's Rocket Mortgage. When we look at the facts without opinion, even though those are my opinions, that's why it's a memorandum, not a complaint. I believe we've hit the threshold for RICO charges, and there is no statute of limitations on that.
That sounds good. So can people see that memorandum on your X or where?
I haven't published it yet. But I will soon.
There you go. Great. Chris, this is amazing. I mean, your research is impeccable. I certainly hope you win, because we need some honest representatives in Congress, and California needs some help. And it's really bad what's going on. Adam Schiff, just like he's the tip of the spear of ruining everything, you are at the tip of the spear of piercing through this nonsense and getting all these mortgage fraudsters into trouble. So,
well, it's mortgage fraud or voter fraud. They actually get a choice.
Right. Yeah.
I'm giving them more options than Elon Musk did with Doge.
That's right. One from column A, one from column B. Well, I want to encourage people, whatever state you're in, to go to Bish for Congress, BISHFOR Congress.com. Tap on that donate button and send some money to Chris Bish's campaign so that she can continue this fight. Even if you're not in California, everybody wants to make sure that the voter rolls are clean and that we don't have shenanigans going on. California is one of the largest and most powerful and economically powerful states, probably the largest in the country, and it's important that we have good representation there.
Well, and that's just it. This should matter to everyone in the country, because I'll be only one voice in Congress, but I can tell you, when I make a statement, I stand behind it and do my research. So when we get hit with these giant omnibus bills, which I think are unconstitutional, I will read it. And at that point, I'll have a staff that can help me get through some of just this giant stuff. And my votes will matter to more than California. It'll matter to the country because we're seeing a lot of votes hitting by 1, 2, or 3 people. And I'll never hold Congress hostage because I want some kind of perk or that sort of thing. And I will always explain myself and why I came up with my conclusions. So in this one with Ed Martin, with uh, Director Pulte, I believe Director Pulte is probably one of the best servants that we have in the federal government right now because he verified everything. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. I do not like the cloak and dagger games that we have going on. And I will be a voice for anyone who wants reason, not
Yeah,
just getting reelected. Uh,
yeah,
this is, I need your help across this country. If you're someone who believes that Adam Schiff did not tell the truth, that someone needs to hold him accountable, whether I get it done before I'm elected or we have to wait for me to get in there, I will not stop. I am a juggernaut. And I need your support across the country, even if it's $5, $10. Hopefully, we get some bigger donations out there. But I'm the people's representative,
you're really
not just
great, Chris. I
California.
have to say, absolutely. I
That's what
really
I
hope you
intend to
do
do.
win. Yeah, and I hope that people will go to Bish for Congress and donate to the campaign. We've got to see Chris there in Congress in Washington, D.C. I'll certainly go visit and go to the hearings. I want to see you yelling at people in those hearings. And I thank
Well,
you
and
again
I've
for
always found that I'm more effective when I don't yell.
that's very good point. I could learn something from you. But I want to thank you for coming back and
Thank
speaking
you.
to us and for all the work that you've been doing and all this great research. I want to remind people also that they can support Crowdsource the Truth on
Yes.
crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. You can also follow me on X at JG_CSTT and sponsor the show there. Christine Bish for Congress, thanks for joining me tonight. Have a great night, everybody.
And everybody out there, share this with Ed Martin, Director Pulte, and Pam Bondi. Make sure they
Absolutely.
understand I'm not letting this go away.
I love it. Thanks.